Gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's November the 10th, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com. Joined again this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented today by Caneswear, your go-to headquarters for all your Miami Hurricanes merchandise needs. Caneswear has the largest assortment of Miami Hurricane stuff that's ever been assembled under one roof. You can visit them at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, or at caneswear.com. We will talk a little bit more about Caneswear later in the show. But Matt, it's the day before the big game against Florida State. The Canes will be heading up to Tallahassee today. I will be heading up to Tallahassee today. And this is always a road trip that I look forward to just because of what the history of the game means and how just absolutely fantastic so many of them have been. But as Miami goes up here in 2023, because of the struggles of quarterback Tyler Van Dyke, there is a little bit of a mystery involved on how great this game will be. Many people do not think it will be so great at all. They are predicting a resounding Florida State victory. I personally think the Miami Hurricanes are going to go up there very loose. They are going to, I think they're going to go for it. I don't think they're going to be ultra conservative, regardless of which quarterback plays, because I think they realize that they are going to need to score points to have a chance to win this game in the fourth quarter. So, Matt, we'll talk a little bit more about the quarterback situation that we've kind of beaten to death all week. But I wanted you to just comment in general about the mood that you think Miami takes up to Tallahassee for the game on Saturday.
Well, first of all, I think you're wrong. I think they come out very conservative on offense. And why wouldn't they? You don't hand the ball to FSU by creating turnovers the way you have the last 4 times, if it's Tyler Van Dyke that starts, the way last four times he started. You start conservative. Your defense is your strength right now. Your running game is your strength right now. Until Florida State proves that they can stop your running game or score points in your defense, you're not going to beat yourself with your weakest area and start launching the ball down the field. They're going to be extremely conservative. They're coaches. Of course, I would like to see them air the ball out. It's fun to watch that. It's what fans want to see, but it's not what Miami is good at. That's the problem. The mood of the team, it's hard to tell now. Other programs have open access to practices. Even Florida State, they let people in to watch practice. And Miami is so scared of what we might see if we were able to glimpse the horrors of Green Tree Practice Field, that for the first time in the modern history of Miami, and even the ancient history of Miami Hurricanes athletics, dating to 1926, I guess, we're banned. We're banned. We can't watch anything because it must be that bad. But anyway, there is one thing I'm extremely, extremely excited about to see on Saturday, and that's because guess who's going stone crabbing in the morning? That's right. I will be out there on Biscayne Bay if anyone wants to see me off from the launch ramp at Matheson Hammock. I'll be there at 8 a.m. sharp. And I'll be pulling.
Man, you're lucky I'm going to be in Tallahassee, because I would be meeting you at that ramp and grabbing some stone crabs. Have you seen how expensive these things are this year? Jeez, insanity.
Well, then I'll sell some to you. But yeah, I will be back. I told my first mate / captain that I need to be back by 2 p.m. at the latest to prepare mentally for the Miami-Florida State game. But normally I'd be nail biting and pacing around. This game, to me, it's unfortunately one of the more meaningless games in the series. The only reason really that I am interested in watching isn't because of the quarterback situation. I don't think Tyler will be here next year. I think he'll start this game. Whether Emory, you launched a poll on the website a couple of days ago, I guess.
I didn't do it. Somebody else did it, and they didn't do it. They didn't set it up right, so I reset it up for them.
Well, the question was, who should start on Saturday? But really, to me, a better question would be who should finish on Saturday, or who will finish on Saturday? Because, do most people think that even if Tyler starts, that he will finish the game? If Tyler's on, if Tyler figures things out, if FSU doesn't do anything to confuse him, he will be pretty good, I think. And the only good thing about this is, unlike some of these previous opponents where Miami's come in pretty much a favorite, and the other team has to say, hey, let's do something different to shake things up. Florida State tends to not do that on defense. They tend to just say, we're going to beat you straight up. They don't do anything fancy. Now, they probably watched film of the last 4 games and realized, well, it's a pretty easy win if we just change some things up here and there and drop 8 and blitz here and there and do this and do that and just copycat, because Tyler has had and Shannon Dawson have had no answers for these last 4, even 5 opponents that have done that. Clemson, they didn't really throw the ball on Clemson. So it'll be interesting to see if Florida State does try to do anything different or just says, you know what, we're that much better than you. We're not going to try to do anything. If they do that, I think it'll actually be a close game. Call me crazy. If Florida State does nothing fancy on defense, plays base defense and, brings a blitz here and there and just rushes 5 and doesn't, try to do some of these zone schemes that have really confused the heck out of Tyler, they might be in for a dogfight. So hope and pray that Florida State is that overconfident that they think they can just show up with some base defense and blitzes here and there and just not really letting Miami get any big plays down the field. And then Miami will just beat themselves eventually, because that's a good way for Miami to stay in the game. And I do think the only way Miami stays in this game is for Florida State coaches to just have a really bad game plan. And guess what? They might. They tend to freak out for the Miami FSU games and not really be, as aggressive and just sort of, especially a game like this. I shouldn't say aggressive. A game like this where they're favored by 2 touchdowns. They probably don't want to go too out of the box when they think, like everyone else, we're better at every position pretty much than Miami, except for maybe kicker and running back, maybe running back. I don't even, running back room in general, because they do have a good starting running backs. And maybe Miami's offensive line is better. I would argue that also. But other than that, every position you could say FSU is a better unit. So that's where the problem is. But that's where maybe FSU will have a slight failing in its coaching staff, and maybe Miami will be the coaching staff that says, oh my gosh, we're going to lose. We're worse at every single position except for a couple. Let's try something crazy. And if they do that, they got a chance.
Okay. Well, you said a couple things. Not surprisingly, I don't really agree with you. And the first thing you said is they should start out conservative. Okay.
I didn't say they should. I said they will.
Okay.
And I see why.
I don't think.
And I understand why. At the end, if you didn't notice, I said they need to do something crazy to win, which obviously would be not doing what is expected. But what I expect and what Florida State expects is conservatism.
I'm saying they're going to do something crazy. I think they will do something crazy. I don't think they're going to go up there playing scared. I think they understand they're playing a good team at its home stadium. They're going to have to score at least probably in the 30s to have a chance to win this game, okay? And they're not going to do it running Mark Fletcher up the middle.
Lance Guidry says, F you. That's what Lance Guidry, he just texted me.
He said, is going to go after
F you. That's what he said.
And I think Lance Guidry is going to go after Jordan Travis. I really do. I think he's going after him. I think they're going to try to hit him hard and early and get in his head. Remember, Florida State thinks in their mind they're playing for the national title. They think they're playing this year to go to the playoff. They think they are going to, right now, when they're looking at their schedule, and they got Miami and Florida, and I can't remember the team in the middle, but it's a team they should beat. They're sitting there thinking they're walking into the college football playoff right now. Yeah. So they're thinking they're walking into the college football playoff. Okay, fine. You hit the crap out of Jordan.
They still have an ACC championship game. You know that, right? Like, it's got nothing to do with regular season for them.
I understand all that. I'm just telling you, they're feeling pretty good about themselves. They've had 5 easy games in a row. Okay. They're already counting, looking ahead and thinking, man, we're going to make the playoff. We're going to win the national title. Yes, they got to win the ACC championship too. But I think that one of the things Miami has going for it here is Lance Guidry's defense, his schemes, the way he's able to mix it up and apply pressure. And I think if they can do a good job and contain Jordan Travis and hit the living crap out of him a few times early in this game, that they might spook him a little bit, because he doesn't, you don't want to get hurt. They're on this magical mystery ride to these big games at the end of the year. He doesn't want to get hurt against Miami and get all beat up against Miami. I feel pretty certain of that. So the first thing I want to see is the Miami defense take ownership of this game and be physical. Get after the quarterback. Don't let him. If you just let him sit back there, he's going to destroy you. Those receivers are too good. Miami is not good enough in the secondary to cover those guys. Okay. You got to get to the quarterback before he throws to those guys, in my opinion. You got to be aggressive as heck, kind of the way Miami was against Texas A&M. All right. That's the first thing. Now, you can't start out conservative. You don't want to play from behind in this game. You want to jump out ahead of these guys and put pressure on them. You want to all the pressure's on Florida State. Okay, let them get a little scared. Let them get a little rattled. I want to see Miami go for it in this game. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, regardless of who starts at quarterback. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And the other thing you said was Miami is not good at airing it out. Okay. Now, the question I have is, when have they aired it out this whole season? Like, Shannon Dawson comes in here with this air raid offense and air raid reputation. I'm not sure we've seen the air raid all year. We saw maybe a little of it against Texas A&M. They threw for 370, I think it was. But we haven't really seen it that much since then, maybe because Tyler's been injured, whatever. But we haven't seen a wide open passing game this year. We've seen an offense built on running the football. That is, the Mario Cristobal baby, and it's been great. But there's only one problem with that. You tend to keep teams in the game. You're not opening up big leads playing that style of football. And every game is knockdown, drag out to the end. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. I would not be surprised if Miami tries something different here. Okay, they haven't been playing great the last month or so. Maybe just try something different. Approach the game a little differently. Get a lot of guys involved. Get the ball in the hands of your playmakers. Feature Brashard Smith a little more. Get Ray Joseph involved in the game. Some of your guys with wiggle. Some of you guys with speed. It's not, you've been playing the same receivers, the whole year, which is great. Plenty of room for those guys. But, you brought in, say, a guy like Tyler Harrell. He hasn't done a damn thing the whole year. Like, what'd you bring him here for? And I know you put him in for a kickoff and the ball bounced off his head. Not a good look for Tyler Harrell. But maybe he gets a couple opportunities in this game. Do something different. Shake it up. The way they can do that is to be a little bit more freewheeling. Obviously, you don't want to turn the ball over, but I do think that they need to be a little bit more wide open on offense. You can't let Florida State just say, hey, we're shutting down the run and put 8 in the box at the line of scrimmage. I don't think they will. So that's kind of some of the things that I'm expecting, Matt. Before we talk about your column today, which I do want to talk about, let's touch on this quarterback situation. Competition's been going on all week. Both Tyler Van Dyke and Emory Williams have been taking reps with the first team in practice. No idea who Mario Cristobal is going to start. Could go either way. The fans voted on the message boards, as you mentioned earlier, and I just checked how that's going, and it's pretty close. I mean, it looks like we have about a 50-50 split in the fan base over which quarterback should start. And the only reason it's close like that, I think, is just because it makes so much more sense to start the experienced guy. And if you pull the plug on Tyler Van Dyke, which Mario might, I mean, this is the decision he has to make. I don't see going back and forth. Like, if you start Emory Williams in this game, you are making a statement. Emory is now our quarterback, our QB1. And I think Tyler Van Dyke is done. I think his career at Miami is done at that point. I really do. Could be wrong. Maybe they start Emory. Maybe they bring in Tyler off the bench. I have no idea what Mario's and Shannon Dawson are thinking on this right now. But I'm just sort of visualizing it all. I don't see how, if you pull Tyler before the start of this game, that you go back to Tyler. I just don't. So we'll see what happens. I guess, Matt, your thoughts.
Well, I'm just while you were rambling on and on, I was taking a look because you said this isn't Shannon Dawson's offense, right? And if Shannon Dawson's offense is throwing the ball down the field, well, then guess who charts that, right? Pro Football Focus does. They chart how many passes are from behind the line of scrimmage, how many passes through the air now, not gains, through the air are behind the line, how many passes through the air are from 0 to 9 yards, 10 to 19 yards and 20 yards or more. So I just took a small sample size. But this past game, Tyler was 0 for 3 on passes that went 20 or more yards down the field. So they attempted 3 of them. And then I said, let's look at Texas A&M because that was his best game probably, right? So let's look at Texas A&M. He threw for 374 yards, I think, and 5 touchdowns, right? How many passes do you think he threw in that game of 20 more yards? What's your best guess? Because, it was a while ago. Do you remember? Just take a guess.
Don't know. Haven't
3. That was it. So it was not a deep passing game. So this apparently is Shannon Dawson's offense at Miami. So then I said, let me look at Houston.
Yeah, there you go.
Last year and see what's going on with Houston. So I just looked at a few games. So I don't have much time. First game I looked at, he threw 7 against Temple late last year. This was Toon, who looked terrible in his NFL start last week. But he threw 7 of 20 or more yards against Temple. I looked against SMU, which was a high-scoring game. He threw 14 passes of 20 or more yards. 14 passes of 20 or more yards he attempted against SMU in Shannon Dawson's offense last year in one game. That's like what they've thrown all year at Miami. And then I looked at USF, and he only threw 4. So this was last year against USF with Houston. He attempted 4 of 20 or more yards. So, you're right. This is not probably what Shannon Dawson envisioned of his offense. I don't know, and we may never know, because Shannon Dawson, for whatever reason, likes to take the blame. He enjoys saying, it was my fault, I suck. That's what he says every week. It was my fault, I suck.
He's not wrong. I mean, he's the quarterback coach. He's the offensive coordinator. The quarterback's playing like crap. I mean, he does have to take some responsibility.
Okay.
Go ahead, do your whole rant.
My feeling is
get back in character with all the body parts flying left and right. Go ahead.
It's this.
I mean to interrupt you. It's just like, of course he's got to.
So common sense dictates that if Shannon Dawson's offense looked like this before he got to Miami, and now all of a sudden it looks like that. My feeling is that's not Shannon Dawson's offense because Mario Cristobal is forcing him to do something that maybe is not his offense. You can shake your head all you want.
That's just not happening. I've asked 1 million people that question. There's nobody that has told me that they believe that's happening.
So why on
the message boards by a couple comments?
So explain to me. Okay,
don't know.
You said your point. So explain to me, common sense wise, how a guy whose entire career apparently was throwing deep pass, and I'll look more afterwards. But so far, everything I've seen, he's throwing deep pass, other places. Here, conservative. How and why? Because they started the year
one game last year where he threw more than 4 deep balls over 20 yards.
What's that?
You just showed us one game last year at Houston where he did supposedly have this freewheeling offense where he threw more than 4 balls over 20 yards in a single game.
I looked up 3 of them. One was 14, one was 7, one was 4. I'll look up a couple more. If that's what you mean. I'll look up a couple more, but I guarantee you he's thrown a lot more deep passes last year than this year. I'll look up week 1.
Shows that he'll do it. And I'm telling you, man.
Week 1 against UTSA, which was a blowout, he threw only 2 deep passes last year, okay? Week 2, they threw 6 last year at Houston. Week 3, they only threw 1. Week 4, they threw 7. Week 5, they only threw 3. Yes, maybe his offense just is conservative. It just appears not to be. Week 6, he threw 5. Yeah. Week 7, I think when they're playing from behind, he just tends to launch the ball more when he's forced to. Yeah, you know what? Maybe you're right. That I look in, I'm literally looking at it live right now as we're talking. And maybe his offense just isn't that aggressive in general. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's just him. It's not a great if this is his offense, what works at Houston against second-tier defense coordinators, let's face it, that's why they're coaching against Houston, may not work quite as well. And this is something I said before the season. I said my concern with both these coordinators is that they've never coached at high-level Power 5 programs. My concern with both of them was they're going against a much different level of coordinator on the other side of the ball where it's a chess match, right? I played chess growing up. I was on the chess team. I was super cool, right? I got a chess rating and everything. And if you're playing an opponent in chess and you're on the junior varsity, you have a much better chance of beating them than playing someone on the varsity. And the people on the varsity are people who have been doing it for a long time. This is in high school varsity or club chess. I did both. And the people in the upper level chess are going to be much more difficult to plan against, to beat, to think ahead 8 different moves, to know what's right to win in the end. So he was playing basically at the JV level, and now they're both at the varsity level, and I think that Lance Guidry was ready for it, and I think the jury's out on if Shannon Dawson was and is ready for it. because the scheme that he used at Houston, maybe it is similar to what he's doing now, and it's just not. They figured it out. The last 5 games, he's been unable to do anything on offense. 4 of them with Tyler, 1 of them with Emery, and I know they beat Clemson with Emery, but Emery did nothing in the passing game until late when he did great. But it was only a few passes, right? They weren't trying to do that. That wasn't the game plan. So when I talk about Shannon Dawson's game plan, that game plan does not seem to have worked ever since the ACC schedule started and one team said, hey, let's try this, and it worked great. And ever since, Tyler Van Dyke's been totally confused, and Shannon Dawson's had no answers.
So somebody says to me the other day that Shannon Dawson's done a bad job coaching Tyler Van Dyke and the quarterbacks. And so I was thinking about it a little bit. I'm like, yeah, he probably hasn't done a great job coaching Tyler. But then I think about how Emery played against Clemson, played pretty well, showed up pretty solid, which would suggest that Shannon Dawson's done a decent job coaching Emery. So can you do a good job coaching Emery, a bad job coaching Tyler? I guess so. But I would agree with you that Lance Guidry has certainly distinguished himself more this season with his schemes, with the success of those schemes, with the success of the defense altogether. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I just don't think Miami can be conservative in this game. I think they got to go for it a little bit. Yeah.
So, but I have to do something different. So here, do you want to hear the deep passes of 20 or more yards by game? I could run through them real quick. How many they're throwing? All right. So game 1, this is just Tyler I'm looking at, not the other quarterbacks. So maybe he didn't play the whole game, whatever. Week 1, Tyler threw 2 deep passes the whole game, 20 or more yards. The next game, he threw 3 of 20 or more yards. The next game, he threw 6. The next game, he threw 4. I think then there was a bye. Hold on, I got to get back up here. And let's go to week 6. Then 4. Then 8. That was against North Carolina.
All right, so you can just stop. I mean, we're seeing a pattern. You could stop. We see the pattern. The pattern is they're actually going down the field more.
Yeah, 2 against Virginia.
Okay, but they're actually going down. And against Virginia, he missed several.
It's very similar to what they did last year. It's very similar.
No, but what I'm saying is against Virginia, he missed several shots down the field that they had called that he just didn't execute.
But it just feels like they're not really, for an air raid offense, it feels like they're not really taking a lot of shots. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, they're taking more than he took in Houston. That's more than he took in Houston last year, based on what you went over a minute ago. So, I don't know. We're not going to have the answer there, whether they're being open or not open enough. I mean, with the personnel they have, they don't have an elite receiver. Okay, let's be honest. They have good receivers, not a great one. The tight ends have been pretty poor in terms of the passing game and haven't been involved that much. So there are some issues with this Miami passing attack. There's no doubt about it that you'd rather not have going up to Tallahassee this weekend. So a lot of mystery, a lot of uncertainty for the Canes going north. But the one thing that I feel pretty good about, Matt, and this brings me to your column that you wrote today, where you talk about how progress in the installation of the Mario Cristobal culture at Miami will face its test at Florida State on Saturday. And I feel pretty good about the culture. I feel pretty good about the kids. I'm getting blistered as usual on the message boards because I said before the NC State game last week, I was watching the pregame warmups. I saw the focus. I saw the intensity. I saw that those kids showed up in Raleigh ready to play. Okay. And yeah, Tyler played like crap. It didn't go the way I thought it would. I understand. But it did go the way I thought it would in terms of effort. And the effort was there. And Matt, the effort has been there all year. We have not seen the same thing as we saw a year ago where I felt the kids quit. I do not think they will quit on themselves going up to Tallahassee. I think these kids will, again, show up engaged, ready to play, and hopeful that their quarterback, whether it's Emery or Tyler, will get the job done this time around.
It's a what's the word? A two-sided sword, a two-edged sword, double-edged sword. Let's go with that, since I think that's the one I've heard before. It's a double-edged sword because if they try really hard and lose by a lot, it just means this roster is still so far away. And if
we already know it is. We know that. There's not a lot of elite talent in this program.
I thought we were projecting 10 wins next year. How many wins are you going with next year? 6?
Let's see. We don't. They're going to turn another 30, 40 spots.
You lost yourself. Your brain froze. Your brain literally froze when I asked you how many wins next year.
No, I'm not there yet. We don't even know what the team's going to look like yet. How am I going to say?
It's just bizarre. It's bizarre to me that It's bizarre to me that I'm more optimistic about the roster than you are.
No, Matt. We don't even know what the team is going to look like next year. They're going to turn.
I know what it's going to look like.
They're going to turn another 30 to 40 spots again this offseason. It's going to be a whole different team. But God, you cut me off. I lost my train of thought. But
they're going to cut 40 spots. Good luck. Tell me the 40 you're cutting.
Well,
you cut Ray Arm. You cut Ray Joseph.
I don't know that they're going to get to 40, but I guarantee you there will be at least 30 new players on this team next year.
Of course, there's 25 commitments, and there's going to be 5 transfer portal guys.
Correct.
And they'll get 40,
and they'll get 10. They'll go in the portal and get 10 guys probably.
You're cutting. You got to cut 20 guys. I've said it before. You got to cut 20. You don't have a choice.
And I think
9 seniors.
And I believe they will.
Yeah, but not 30 or 40. Let's not go crazy. They're going to cut 20. You cut 30 or 40, you're cutting redshirt freshmen, true freshmen. That's not right.
Depends how the season ends. But Matt, here's what I'm saying. Okay, this roster's not there yet. Okay, there's not a lot of elite in the program, and they are going to keep being aggressive. You see what it's done for Florida State.
I could not
You're
disagree.
going to be yelling and screaming.
More. I could not disagree.
Well, I know, but look at Florida State. They've hit on 65% of their transfers. Yeah. Now, you're right. Miami's only hit on 45, but they got to do a better job of evaluation. But they will continue to use the transfer portal. The transfer portal allows you to narrow that gap quicker in today's football. And they will also continue to do standard recruiting. But standard recruiting is not going as well in this cycle as it did last year for whatever reason. We will see if they can turn the tide on that.
Listen, I firmly believe this roster is an elite quarterback away from 10-plus wins. Running back, you got Mark Fletcher. Wide receiver, they're all bad.
You need more than Mark Fletcher.
Let me finish for 2 seconds. I'm just talking
about
more
than Mark Fletcher. We went through this the other day.
Okay.
Mark Fletcher's a very good back. You need more than him. You need a guy that can go the distance.
Okay.
Hopefully Kevin Riley gets here and he can do that.
I don't want you to burst the blood vessel. Next subject.
I'm going to burst the blood vessel. This is not an elite roster. You don't have an elite quarterback yet. You don't have an elite running back yet. You don't have an elite tight end yet. You don't have an elite wide receiver yet. You don't know, quite frankly, if you have an elite offensive lineman yet. The offensive line has been good collectively this year, but are you ready to call Francis Maigoa elite? He didn't look elite last week when he was getting beat around the edge. I'm not ready to say he's elite. And there's Cooper. I'm not ready to say he's elite. Matt Lee may or may not be here going forward.
You don't have to go through the whole lot.
I'm not ready to call Jalen Rivers elite.
Here's the piece that you don't seem to ever understand, okay?
Let me finish. I don't see elite.
Talk for the next half hour. You go through the whole damn team.
Let me go to defense. I'm going to show you.
Got to go through the whole roster for everybody?
I'm making a point to you. Okay, right. Defensive line. I'm not calling Leonard Taylor elite. Hell no. Ruben Bain is on his way to being elite for sure. If Messidor can ever get healthy, he has a chance to be an impactful player. Linebackers, Francisco Maigoa is a very good player. I'm not ready to call him elite. And I'm not calling James Williams or Cam elite. They're good players. I hope they stay. I hope they don't get visions of grandeur and go to the NFL. They're both very good players. I think they can benefit from coming back. We don't have an elite cornerback. So my point is this. We do not have elite at all. We have maybe 1 or 2 guys that have a chance to be elite. This roster has miles to go, okay? And I do think that they will attack that in the offseason. We will continue talking about that as we go forward. All right, before I talk about what else is on the website today, let's talk a little bit more about CaneSport. I'm going to do this a little differently today. First, I'm going to show you a little bit about the new CaneSport.
Welcome to CaneSport. New store, new items, same great experience. Family owned and operated since 2010, CaneSport has the latest merchandise from the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Florida Panthers, Inter Miami CF, and more. Come visit us at our store in Davie on University Drive, just south of 595, or online at caneswear.com. CaneSport, the spot Miami fans shop.
So there you get a little taste of the new CaneSport. They moved down the plaza from where they were in the past to a bigger store, and it's really spectacular. If you live locally, get yourself out there to 2655 South University Drive in Davie, where you will find the largest collection of Miami Hurricanes gear that's ever been assembled under one roof. I'm talking about T-shirts, jerseys, polos, hoodies, hats, flags, decals, magnets. They have sizes for men, women, kids, babies, and they will even dress your pet. If you have a dog, they have outfits for your dog. Very, very cool. And if you're a fan of the other sports teams in South Florida, Dolphins, Panthers, Heat, Inter Miami Soccer, they also have gear for those teams. CaneSport is more than a store. It is absolutely an experience in that new expanded location there at 2655 South University Drive in Davie. And if you don't live locally, you could shop CaneSport online, caneswear.com. Shop them locally. You can shop them online if you live local too. But I'm just suggesting if you live local, you go to the store. But caneswear.com, obviously open 24/7, 365. So visit the store at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, or go to caneswear.com. You won't be sorry. They got lots of cool stuff in their store. All right, Matt, let's just touch a little bit here on a few of the other stories that are on the website today. Our resident historian, Jim Martz, gives us a crash course on the UM versus FSU series history with a chapter set to be added tomorrow. We have your You Bet CaneSport show with renowned handicapper Lee Sterling. He breaks down Miami, Florida State. I'm telling you right now, he's getting a little frustrated betting Miami. Thought the Canes were a great pick going up to NC State. They let him down. It was one of the few blemishes on his record last week. He was not happy about it. And you could check out the show this week for yourselves. I'm not going to tell you which side he's lining up on, but I will tell you he's getting frustrated with the Canes like all of us out here. And Miami just needs to have a better performance. We talked to Jared Harrison Hunt and to Corey Couch, who share their thoughts going into the game. And on the recruiting front, we have a story with four-star linebacker Elijah Melendez. He's down to 10 schools. Miami's one of them. We also take a look at players that are going to be attending the Miami, Florida State game this weekend at Doak Campbell Stadium. So check that out. And last but not least, the Miami basketball tonight is hosting Central Florida in an interesting game at the Watsco Center. And they will be unveiling the Final Four banner. Now, I haven't seen the Final Four banner. I am praying that it's more impressive than the other banners that they have in the arena. I think I personally think they need to redo all their banners. They are very ordinary looking banners. This program is going through the stratosphere. It is absolutely a threat, in my opinion, to make the Final Four again this year, depending on the draw that they get in March. But they look very, very good. They're very, very deep. And as long as they don't have any significant injuries, they will be a force to be reckoned with this entire season. So if you live local, Friday night, you don't have anything to do, get on out to the Watsco Center, check out Canes basketball against Central Florida. And I don't think you will be sorry about that. So, Matt, as we prepare to move on here to Miami, Florida State, any parting thoughts?
I mean, no, I have a lot to say, but I was going to say it in the flow of the conversation. However, it was usurped, much like the Miami Hurricanes hope to usurp Florida State's home stadium and turn it into their own. Look, I hope for the best. I expect the worst. That's what I expect everybody out there to do. Just expect the worst. And then what else can happen that'll make you mad? Nothing.
The doctrine of Matt Shodell. Just expect the worst. You will never be unhappy if you expect the worst.
Thank you. Wise words.
Oh boy. Well, it's gonna be interesting.
I'm what they call. I'm the Matty Llama. You can call me the Matty Llama.
I will get on the plane today. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get on the plane. I will show up at Doak Campbell on Saturday. Hope to see a bunch of you guys out there at the game, and we shall see what the Canes have in store for us this week. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you so much for joining us once again for Good Morning CaneSport. If you like the show and you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe and like buttons. It helps us with the algorithm. If you are not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, take advantage of our big game special. Become a member of our site and our community. You will not be sorry that you did. Canes versus FSU at the Doak on Saturday at 3:30. And we will be back on Monday to talk about it more. Have a great weekend, everybody.